My name is Carol Harrison. I'm 36 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the woman everyone assumed would figure it out quietly, without help, without applause, without complaint. I'm a single mother, a freelance graphic designer, and the kind of daughter who learned early that love in my family was conditional, measured, rationed, and almost never evenly distributed. Everything I did revolved around one goal: giving my son Sawyer the kind of childhood I never had: stability, safety, and the freedom to be exactly who he is, even when that version didn't fit neatly into my family's expectations. I didn't know it at the time, but the night my son accidentally knocked over an antique vase would become the moment everything in our lives split cleanly in two. Before that night, I believed endurance was strength. I believed silence was maturity. And I believed that if I just stayed grateful enough, things would eventually get better. I was wrong. Sawyer and I were living in the converted barn behind my parents' farmhouse. Technically, they called it the guest house. In reality, it was a one-bedroom box with thin walls, a kitchenette barely big enough for 2 plates, and a door that connected directly to the main house. A door my mother treated less like a boundary and more like a right. When my marriage ended, my freelance work was inconsistent. Some months were good. Others barely covered groceries. My mother, Virginia Harrison, offered the barn with a smile that looked generous from the outside. "Stay as long as you need," she said. "Rent-free. Family helps family." What she didn't say was that rent-free came with rules. Lots of them. Dinner was at 6, sharp. Miss it and you ate leftovers alone. The refrigerator was inspected weekly. Anything past her approval window went straight into the trash. "Waste not, want not," she liked to say, while rearranging groceries I paid for. My father, Philip, stayed planted in his recliner like a permanent fixture, remote in hand, eyes fixed on whatever kept him from engaging. He nodded when my mother spoke, never interrupted, never defended. Sawyer noticed. Children always do. Growing up just 3 years apart from my younger brother, Cole, I learned early where I stood. Cole was celebrated. I was tolerated. When he turned 10, he got a brand new bike, shiny, red, perfect. He ditched the training wheels in a week. I rode a rusted hand-me-down from the neighbor. The brakes squealed every time I hit the gravel road outside our old farmhouse. When Cole wanted to play baseball in high school, my parents paid for private coaching, new cleats, even a custom glove. I worked weekends at a diner, saved every dollar for community college. When Cole chose a 4-year university, my father wrote checks without blinking. No loans, no stress. I pieced together scholarships and night shifts, graduated with debt that followed me like a shadow. The pattern never changed. Cole married Riley, his high school sweetheart turned successful real estate partner. Their wedding cost over $30,000. Country club venue, live band, open bar. My parents covered it all. When I married years earlier, quietly, with no fuss, my mother handed me an envelope, $2,000. "That's what we can spare," she said, already talking about Cole's future. I didn't argue. I never did. After my divorce, when I needed a reset, the barn felt like survival. Temporary. A stepping stone. I told myself it was worth it. For Sawyer. But Sawyer paid the price. Cole's kids, Ford and Emerson, 8-year-old twins, plus 6-year-old Jade, had free run of the main house. They tore through the living room, toys everywhere, no boundaries. Sawyer's belongings stayed confined to the barn, out of sight, out of the way. One afternoon, he asked for a snack before dinner. My mother overheard from the doorway. "Cole's kids have their own rooms and pantries," she snapped. "You're in the barn. Be grateful for what little you get." Sawyer nodded, quietly. That was the word that followed him everywhere in that house. Quiet. 3 weeks before everything exploded, my mother's rules tightened. Curfew for Sawyer, 8 p.m., even on weekends. "Cole's kids follow structure," she said. They didn't, but rules only applied downward. One night, Cole bragged about upgrading the twins' playroom. New gaming console, massive wall-mounted screen. Sawyer glanced up from his sketchbook. "Cool," he said softly. My mother shot him a look. "Appreciate what you have. Don't covet theirs." I swallowed my anger. Living here saved money, I told myself. Build security. Endure now, escape later. The night the vase broke, Sawyer was bouncing a rubber ball against the barn wall. He aimed for open space, but the ball ricocheted off a shelf. The antique vase, my mother's prized heirloom, tipped and shattered. The sound felt final, sharp, irreversible. Sawyer froze. My mother burst through the connecting doors seconds later. "That was worth $800, she screamed. Sawyer's eyes filled with panic. "It was an accident, Grandma, I swear." $800. Tonight, she demanded. "Or pack your bags." I stepped between them. "We don't have that kind of cash. Can we set up payments?" "No." No discussion, no compromise. She stormed out. And in that moment, I remembered the TV. Just 1 week earlier, Ford had thrown a baseball inside the living room. It missed his brother, hit the brand new 55-inch TV. The screen cracked instantly. My mother rushed in and hugged him. "Accidents happen, sweetheart." No lectures, no demands. They promised the kids a shopping trip for a bigger one. Sawyer stood beside me that day, clutching his sketchbook. "Why don't they yell at Ford?" he whispered. I had no answer. That night, I finally confronted my mother. "Why is it different?" I asked. "The vase is an accident too." She didn't even look at me. "Cole's family needs protection," she said. "You and Sawyer manage on your own." Manage. That word echoed long after she walked away. The deadline came fast. $800. Or leave. And standing in that kitchen, watching my son shrink under their rules, I realized something terrifying. If I stayed, this would become normal to him. And I couldn't allow that. Not ever. The days after the vase shattered felt heavier than the weeks before it, not because of the money, but because something invisible had finally cracked inside me. $800. That number followed me everywhere, blinking on my phone screen in reminder texts from my mother, echoing in my head while I worked late into the night, hovering over Sawyer like a storm cloud he didn't deserve. She texted every morning. "Have you figured it out yet?" Every afternoon, "You know the deadline." Every evening. "I don't want to repeat myself, Carol." No, "Are you okay?" No, "Did Sawyer calm down?" Just pressure, control, ultimatums. And what hurt most was how normal it all felt to her. Sawyer changed that week. He stopped bouncing his ball, stopped asking questions. He stayed at his desk, sketching quietly, shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear into the page. One night, I found him erasing the same drawing over and over. "What's wrong?" I asked gently. He hesitated. "Am I too loud here?" he finally whispered. That question nearly broke me. "No," I said immediately, pulling him into my arms. "You're not the problem. You never were." But even as I said it, I knew words weren't enough, because he was learning something dangerous, that love came with conditions, that mistakes were expensive, that some people were allowed grace and others weren't. The hypocrisy became impossible to ignore. Ford and Emerson ran through the barn one afternoon while my mother watched. They knocked over Sawyer's jar of pencils, scattering them across the floor. My mother laughed. "Boys exploring," she said. Sawyer dropped to his knees, gathering them quietly. That night, I found a note taped to our door. "Mow your side of the lawn. It looks sloppy." I stared at it for a long time, then folded it neatly and threw it away. The final confrontation came faster than I expected. It was 8:45 p.m. Sawyer was in the barn, packing his backpack for school the next day, when I heard my mother call my name from the kitchen. Her tone wasn't angry. It was worse. Final. I walked in slowly. She stood at the counter, arms crossed. My father sat at the table, staring into his coffee mug like it held answers. $800, my mother said flatly. "Or you're out tonight." I took a breath. "We can make payments," I said calmly. "I'll sign something if you want. I'm working. Clients are coming in." She shook her head. "No. Accountability matters." Before I could respond, the back door opened. Cole walked in. "What's all this drama?" he asked, shrugging off his jacket. "She won't pay," my mother said. Cole scoffed. "Come on, Carol. Sawyer needs to learn consequences." The words landed like a slap. Sawyer stood just outside the doorway. I didn't realize he was there until I saw his face go pale. "He's 11, I snapped, "and it was an accident." Cole rolled his eyes. "Different kids, different rules." My mother nodded. "He's right." My father said nothing. Not a word. Sawyer turned and ran. I followed him back to the barn. He was sitting on the bed, knees pulled to his chest, tears streaming silently. "Are we leaving?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked at him, at how small he seemed in that space, at how careful he'd become, at how much he'd already learned to shrink himself. "Yes," I said firmly, "we are." We packed fast. Clothes, sketchbooks, laptop. My mother appeared at the doorway. "Leave the keys on the hook." No goodbye, no regret. Cole lingered behind her. "Call when you cool off," he said smugly. I ignored him. At 9:30 p.m., I locked the door for the last time and tossed the keys onto the porch. They hit the concrete with a sound I'll never forget. We drove away with nowhere to go. Sawyer stared out the window. I kept my hands tight on the wheel. 15 minutes later, we pulled into my old neighbor Sloane's driveway. She opened the door in pajamas. "Come in," she said immediately. No questions. That night, Sawyer slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. I lay awake on an air mattress, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The first morning after we left the barn, I woke up before Sawyer. The house was quiet. Not the heavy, watchful quiet I'd grown used to, the kind where every sound felt like a violation, but a calm one, a neutral one, a safe one. Sloane had left coffee brewing in the kitchen. I wrapped my hands around the mug and stared out the window, realizing something slowly and painfully clear. I hadn't slept through a full night in years. Not since before my divorce. Not since before I moved back under my parents' roof. Not since I started shrinking myself to survive. That morning, I made a decision. We were not going back. Not to the barn, not to the rules, not to the quiet suffering disguised as gratitude. Sawyer woke up cautiously, like he expected someone to scold him for existing. When he realized where he was, his shoulders relaxed. "Are we staying here?" he asked. "Just for now," I said. "But we're finding our own place." His eyes lit up, not with excitement, but relief. That broke my heart in a new way. A child shouldn't feel relief at leaving his grandparents' house, but he did. And that told me everything I needed to know. I opened my laptop that afternoon and treated it like a lifeline. Rental listings, budgets, deadlines. 1 bedroom, under 1,000, close to Sawyer's school district. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. I pitched work like my future depended on it, because it did. Logos, menus, brand kits, every invoice went straight into an escape fund. No takeout, no extras, just momentum. Sloan drove us to see an apartment the next day. Sunlight poured through the windows. Sawyer ran his fingers along the walls like he was checking if they were real. "Can I hang my drawings here?" he asked. "Everywhere," I said. Approval came faster than I expected. Keys on Wednesday. That night, Sawyer slept curled up next to his sketchbooks, like he was guarding them. I sat on the floor of our new place, surrounded by thrift store furniture and half-unpacked boxes. It wasn't much, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like progress, not survival. The silence from my family was loud. My mother texted once. "The barn is still empty. You can come back when you calm down." I didn't reply. Cole called. "You're tearing the family apart," he said. I blocked his number. My father sent one message. "Drive safe." That was it. No apology, no accountability. And strangely, that hurt less than I expected. Because I finally understood something. Silence was his choice. Sawyer changed faster than I did. Without the constant pressure, he started humming while he drew. His lines grew bolder, messier, more alive. He joined the school art club, came home excited, talking fast, ideas spilling out of him. One night, he taped a drawing to the fridge, a house with open doors. "No fences," he said, "just space." I stared at it for a long time. Meanwhile, cracks began forming back at the farmhouse. Riley stopped calling. Cole texted from a different number once. "Mom's stressed. You always do this." I deleted it. What I didn't know yet was that my absence was doing something unexpected. It wasn't punishing them. It was exposing them. Without me smoothing things over, without me absorbing tension, without me quietly making everything work, they had nothing to lean on anymore. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a notification. Sawyer had been selected to lead a group mural at school. He grinned. "Do you think I can do it?" I knelt beside him. "I know you can." And for the first time, I meant it without fear. 6 months later, we were stable. Not rich, not perfect, but peaceful. And peace, I learned, is expensive. but worth every penny. 2 years after the night we left the barn, Sawyer stood on a small stage at the community center downtown. He was taller now, still quiet, but not small. The banner behind him read, "Citywide Youth Art Exhibition." His painting hung at the center of the room. It was called Free House. An open doorway, bright sky, no locks, no fences. When they announced first place in the teen division, Sawyer didn't jump or shout. He just exhaled, like someone who'd been holding his breath for a very long time. "This is for new beginnings," he said into the microphone, voice steady. "And for second chances." The room applauded. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because this wasn't about proving anything to anyone anymore. It was about becoming who we were always meant to be. The article ran in the local paper the next morning. Sawyer's photo, wide smile, painting front and center. Cole saw it at a coffee shop. I know because he told my mother, loudly. "Why does her kid get all this praise?" he demanded. "My kids draw too." For the first time, my mother didn't rush to soothe him. She just said quietly, "He earned it." That sentence landed harder than she expected. Riley overheard, and that was the beginning of the end. Without me there to buffer the tension, without someone to absorb blame, without a difficult daughter to unite against, their dynamics collapsed. Riley filed for divorce 6 weeks later, full custody. The house sold in a hot market. Cole blamed everyone but himself. Deals fell through. Commissions dried up. My mother stopped hosting dinners. The farmhouse grew quiet. Too quiet. My father's health declined. Stress he'd ignored for years finally caught up with him. Hospital stays, empty rooms, long silences. One night, my mother left a voicemail. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "I didn't mean for things to go this way." I listened once, then deleted it. Not out of spite, but because I finally understood something important. Closure doesn't always come from apologies. Sometimes it comes from distance. Our life kept moving forward. Sawyer mentored younger kids in art club. I expanded my freelance work into a small studio. We ate dinner at the table together. No rules, no clocks, no inspections. Just conversation, laughter, presence. Sometimes women ask me if I regret leaving, if cutting ties was too harsh, if family should always come first. And this is what I tell them. I didn't leave to punish anyone. I left to protect my child and myself. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped sacrificing myself to hold it together. There's a difference. If you've ever felt like the spare tire in your own family, the one expected to endure quietly, the one who carries weight no one acknowledges, this is your reminder. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to leave spaces that shrink you. And you are not cruel for refusing to bleed just to keep others comfortable. Sometimes, the bravest thing a woman can do is walk away and build something better.